Hi everyone and welcome back. So in today's video I'm going to be drawing lots of different expressions and I'm going to be sharing a few tips and tricks about what I've learned from drawing different expressions, and I'm going to be using a set of different coloured ballpoint pens in my sketchbook today. But first of all, before we get into drawing, I just want to show you a few pages in some art books that I have of some different character expression sheets and pages, because they kind of give you quite a good idea of the sort of thing that I'm going for, and they can also provide some useful inspiration for your own practice pages. And I really love these expression sheets in these books because they not only show how the character developed, but they show the character from different angles. They show, you know, the character looking happy, looking sad, and they show how the character design, the artists who were making the movie, how they designed the character and how they went through and how they developed the look of this particular character. And it can also give you some good ideas for some different expressions and poses just for your own practice, and I think that's a really useful resource, and I love these art books for that. So the three art books that I had here were The Art of the Book of Life, Inside Out and Tangled. Now if you don't have art books, you can have a look online on Pinterest. If you search for character expressions or expressions sheet, you'll find lots of different references, and there are even some that were in the Tangled book. I've seen like the Flynn Rider expressions sheet on Pinterest, so you can have a look at that if you'd like some inspiration there. And those references and sources are great for just practicing in your sketchbook, but if you want to obviously post stuff online or you make any sort of income prints or whatever from those from your drawings, then you'll probably want to take your own reference images. So what I do is I either get a friend to make goofy expressions and I take pictures of them with my phone, or I put my phone on a tripod, I set a 5-second timer, and then I go stand in front of the phone, in front of the camera, and make lots of goofy expressions, and, you know, take pictures from different angles with my head twisted to one side or to the other, and just kind of make goofy expressions, some extreme, some subtle. You can just take basically loads and loads of reference images, then I have them all in a folder on my desktop, so that whenever I'm sketching, or I even put some of them back on my phone in a folder, so that when I'm sketching I can easily pull up a lot of different expressions and I don't have to worry about them whether or not I'm going to be sharing or selling a print or whatever, because I own all the license, I own these reference images. So that is something to bear in mind when you're looking for reference images. But there are some different sources for reference images for expressions, and I think the reason why I particularly like drawing an expression sheet like this is because it's a great warm-up, and often when I come to drawing or come to doing a work session, it's often very important to do a warm-up page in my sketchbook first, just to kind of get creativity flowing and to get my hand warmed up. And the expressions on characters can really make an enormous difference to your artwork, and I found that by varying expressions on my characters, it gives them a lot more life, it gives them a lot more interest, a lot more kind of vibrancy, and it makes it also look a bit more professional as well. And also, if you're sometimes stuck in a rut of drawing the same face over and over again, or every time you draw a face you feel it looks the same, by getting different expressions onto your characters, you automatically lessen the chance of drawing that same face. Also, if you do end up drawing the same face a lot, varying the eyes and the nose and the face shape can also help with that, to get different character designs. So the biggest tip that I think for drawing expressions, or at least what I've learned from doing this exercise in my sketchbook, is to pay attention to the eyebrows. Now, if you're drawing very extreme expressions, so if you've ever seen, actually while you're on Pinterest looking up for reference images, have a look at chibi style expressions. Now there are lots of different chibi styles and manga styles, but one of the things that I really like about maybe like the mainstream chibi style is the crazy expressions. When they draw expressions on chibi characters, they draw them to the extreme, so the eyes are really wide open, the eyebrows are almost off the head. You know, if they're drawing somebody sad, they've literally got buckets of you know, water falling out of their eyes. You know, they really push expressions to the extreme, and I particularly like that in certain cases. So you could also have a look at that, and that's a good reference for different expressions as well. When you're dealing with more subtle expressions, like I am today, all the expressions that I've drawn today and the expressions that I tend to draw in my characters are more subtle. You know, they show sadness, but they don't show you know, tragedy. They just show someone looking a bit sad, or someone looking a bit annoyed, or a bit angry, or a bit peeved, or a bit concerned. Then the thing that really indicates the expression are the eyebrows. And I find that sometimes you could draw the eyes the same shape, the nose, the mouth, the same as you always do, but you just angle the eyebrows in, you push them up a bit, you curve them in a different way, and suddenly the expression is completely different. It's subtle, but it makes quite a big difference to the piece. And I particularly, the eyebrows are the thing that I pay the most attention to when I'm drawing different expressions. So when you're learning or when you're practicing, pay attention to the eyebrows. If you go and look in the mirror and do a lot of different expressions, you'll notice on your face that the eyebrows bounce around and move the most. Even more than your mouth or your eyes do anything, your eyebrows will move the most, and so really pay attention to the eyebrows. One of the other things that I like to practice and play around with these expression sheets are the mouth. So sometimes I will make the mouth open, sometimes I try and make the mouth look pouty or angry, and with the eyes I tend not to do very much to the eyes. You can see the eyes are all quite similar on this sheet. There are a couple of instances where I drew the eyes closed or slightly narrowed, but I don't change the eyes too much. It's really the eyebrows that I pay the most attention to, and then the mouth. And the other thing that is really nice to experiment with is tilting the head. So instead of just drawing the head straight on or straight to the side, try tilting it slightly so that the neck is slightly at an angle. Or this is where taking your own reference images really comes in handy, because you can see how, you know, your chin might be slightly tilted or your eye might be slightly tilted to this direction. It just gives your characters a lot more life. And I think if you're designing an original character design, drawing an expressions sheet like this is an excellent practice. I think it's excellent practice anyway if you draw characters, but if you're designing an original character, and let's say you've designed a kind of a hairstyle, an eye shape, facial features, and maybe an outfit, by drawing your character not only from different angles, so face on, profile, 3/4 view, and those sort of different angles, but also by varying the expression, you can really get to know your character, and you can really make sure that your hairstyle works from every angle and that your eye shape works, and it's also great for reference. So this page that I'm drawing today is a reference page. So now I don't like all the faces on it, but there are a couple on there that I actually think the expressions are rather nice, and I would like to incorporate them into a finished piece. So if you, so for warming up and for doing pages like this, or just sort of chilling out, sketchbook sessions, sketching, particularly with ballpoint pens, and I'll talk a little bit more in a moment about why I think ballpoint pens are actually a really great tool to use for these sorts of pages. But when you're just doing a chill out session or a warm up session, if you just take something you want to practice, it could be hands, it could be faces or expressions, you could just be eyes, you could draw a whole page of eyes, or fruit, animals, flowers, whatever it is. You can make studies, take some reference images, and make a page full of doodles like this, and that way when you come to putting together a finished piece or putting together a more finished page in your sketchbook, you have a reference, you've made your own reference, and you've practiced drawing what it is, so you can really get to know your subject. And I think that's a really useful thing to have, and I have lots of pages in my sketchbooks that are like this, that are just reference pages. So I know that if I'm going to be drawing some expressions, or I need to draw a flower, or I have pages that are full of roses, so if I'm drawing a rose, I don't need to go and look up reference images or go take reference images, because I've studied them in my sketchbook already. And I find that if I've already done a sketchbook page like this, a study of something, it's much easier to draw it again on a finished piece. The ballpoint pens that I'm using are the Paper Matte Inkjoy pens, and these are my favourite ballpoint pens. I love them because they come in different colours, but the ink flows really nicely. And the reason why I'm using a ballpoint pen as opposed to a pencil is for the reason that I can't rub it out. And I like that because it forces me to make a line and then to move on. If something doesn't look right, I can kind of scribble, try and change it, and if not, I just move on and work on the next head. So you end up practicing and doing your warm-up session and your practice page really quickly, which can be very helpful. It also stops you from getting bogged down on one particular face or one particular element for too long, and I like that because if you're doing a warm-up page, you want to warm up quick, you want to keep warming up. You don't want to just get fixated on one eye or something, because this is just a practice page. This isn't a finished piece. This is just a page in my sketchbook. It doesn't matter if it all looks terrible. And I don't like all the faces on this. The first one, for instance, I really think looks silly, and I don't particularly like the one that I did in the red pen either, but some of the others I really think are very nice, and I will use particularly the first green one, the first green girl that I did. I'd like to use that in another image. So I think that a ballpoint pen is great because you don't rub out, you're forced to move quickly and to move past mistakes. I like seeing the construction lines, and I like it because I find it really freeing. I'm not worrying about the lines, I'm not worrying about whether or not it's perfect, because there's nothing I can do if it's not perfect. With a pencil, I think because you can rub it out, you know that you can make it perfect. So you're really, for me, if you're a little bit of a perfectionist, you're very tempted just to keep rubbing it out until you make it perfect. And for a finished piece, I'm all for that. I have redrawn things dozens of times to get something the way I want it. But for a practice page like this, I like the fact that I have to move past it. And the other thing that I like about a ballpoint pen is that the flow of the ink. It's really flowy, and it's great if you're someone who's very tight with their sketches. Being able to, using a ballpoint pen you might find really helpful, because the ink flows, and you have to be a bit more sketchy with your lines, and it really helps to loosen up your hand as well. So I think if you haven't tried sketching with a ballpoint pen and you want to do some practice pages in your sketchbook, I do definitely recommend trying it out and really loosening up and becoming a little bit more, I think it really helps becoming a bit more free and easy with your sketches. And that's what I use them for. I'm a big fan of ballpoint pens, and I really hope you enjoyed this page. This is not I always try to make a lot of my sketchbook pages, particularly the ones that I use in my videos and the ones that I share on Instagram, more finished. I put a lot more effort into them, but I thought it'd be nice to share a more sketchy page, a page where I'm just practicing something. And practicing expressions is an excellent exercise for anyone that may draw a lot of characters. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll give this sort of page a go. Try practicing a page of expressions, and try doing it with a ballpoint pen. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you vote for next week's art supply that I use. You voted last week for ballpoint pens won the poll, so this is what I used them for. And have a look at the poll. It's in the upper right hand corner in the iCards. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful week, everyone, and I will see you next time.